Welcome to Middle Grade Book Adventures, where each month at the Kingston Library we preview a new middle grade book that we think you might enjoy. This month we're going to look at Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. This has been a favorite in our library for the last few months and we wanted to share it with you. It's the story of Mal and Christopher who embark on a wild adventure, racing from island to island searching for someone who can explain why magic is fading and why magical creatures are suddenly dying. I am going to read from the fourth chapter called Arrival Elsewhere. The murderer arrived by boat. He came gently, with a soft tread and beautifully clean hands. He strode past a group of men and women, hauling in a catch of firefish, his knife out of sight in his pocket. They glanced round at him, but he only nodded at them, and they forgot him as soon as he passed out of sight, which was as he intended. He was a professional. He had spent years perfecting the careful art of forgettability. His hair was neither long nor short, and his shoes had been polished to exactly the shine that attracts no comment. His eyes, which were as dark and cold as the bottom of the sea, settled on nothing for very long. Until that fine day, they settled on Mal. It had been easy in retrospect for the murderer to find her. It's easy to find your quarry if you've been told to hunt down a flying girl, and then you see a child 20 feet up weaving through a flock of seagulls. Human flight was an unusual sight, even in the archipelago. It had been years now since Mal had first learned to fly. A traveling seer had given her the flying cloak soon after she was born. He named her and laid the coat at her small feet. He tried to say more, to explain why he had given the coat to her, and to her alone. But the house was in mourning, for Mal's mother had not survived the birth, and he'd been sent abruptly on his way. So it was with no instruction at all that Mal took to the sky. The nearest neighbors had laughed at her, a small girl swamped in a coat running into the wind. So she'd flushed and woken earlier the next day so nobody would see her. At first, when the wind dropped, she used to thump down to the ground with a bone-breaking crack. She had fractured both her ankles at different times, snapped an arm, and bent her little finger backward to the wrist. Her big toe had turned an interesting green-black and fallen off, but she had tried again and again, licking the blood off her skinned knees, climbing up trees and jumping out of them. And she had proved her neighbors wrong. "No, I will do it," she said, when the neighbor boys laughed at her. "You don't know anything about it." She wore her chin high on those days. People were different. She felt herself grow spiky around them, liable to say the wrong thing and blush right up to her forehead. But the sky made perfect sense to her. She might be grubby and awkward on the ground, but in flight, the locals said Mal Arvian was a thing worth seeing. By the age of 9, she learned to glide to a gentle stop. By 10, she could land on the tips of her toes or on one foot. By 12, she could tuck her chin to her chest and throw herself forward, somersaulting in the wind. That spring morning, she had flown over the sea with her bare feet skimming the water, her boots in her pockets. The ocean spray flecking her ankles, laughing with the speed and joy of it. The murderer had watched her and smiled an unloving smile. Mal was forbidden to fly anywhere except around the garden or across the fields. Her great-aunt Leonore would have been horrified had she known how far Mal had went. But her great-aunt forbade an immense book-length list of things, and she couldn't obey them all. "I can't," she said to Gellifen. "Just stay indoors and sit on a chair all day? That's how people turn to stone." So, forbidden to cut her own hair, she had given herself a fringe with a pair of nail scissors. It came out a little erratic and drunken, but she liked it, and plaited a gold thread she had pulled from an embroidered tablecloth into her braid to set it off. Forbidden to go to the forest, she flew there in the thin light of the sunrise, before Leonore was awake. She longed to know the green, squirrel-like radoskas that gradually came gradually came to be on speaking terms with them, listening to their gossip. She told them stories in return of how she'd found Gelifin an egg washed up close to the shore. I ran fully clothed into the waves for it, and I hatched him in my own hand. He sleeps on my pillow now. And heard it repeated by one Ratatoska, high and shrill, to another. She swam herself out to Lithia, she did, in full evening dress. Had to battle a nereid for it, she did. She spent hours running through the trees with Gelifin, looking for unicorns and gorging on waterberries. She had seen a family of almirages go loping through the sun-dappled undergrowth, a trail of fresh shoots of grass marking their progress behind them. She was bitten once by an avanc, entirely her own fault. Leonore scolded for getting too close, and it had gone septic, and her great-aunt had had to sit up with her for 7 nights running. As soon as she was allowed out of bed, she'd gone back to the forest. She had work to do there. Most of all, though, there was the sky. If, as occasionally happened, someone in town shook their head and told her she was a little scrap of chaos, a burden to the old woman, then Mal would glare and redden and run to take refuge in flight. The sky was Mal's freedom. She would angle herself to fly up through the clouds, soaring higher and higher in the white blur of them. She would open her mouth and stick out her tongue and come back to earth, drenched and red-cheeked and victorious. Cloud eating, she called it. Some clouds tasted different from others, a different chill and flavor to different shades of gray and white. Gelifin couldn't yet fly alongside her, so she tucked him into her jumper, his beaked face protruding from the blue wool at the top. A few people over the years had suspected the girl was rare in some way. Some of them thought it with a spike of jealousy for their own children, and others with the thrill of pleasure. But they were busy, and people mostly let her be, and run and eat and fly. Except that day for the murderer. If you would like to find out what happens, you can check out Impossible Creatures here at the Kingston Library. And these are some other fantasy middle grade books that you might want to explore as well. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next middle grade book adventure.